commons. Climate catastrophe is impending as they just transition to renewable energy. Ecological taxes and dividends create a price signal and safety net that facilitates economic transformation away from fossil fuels. 221. Taxation of fossil carbon emissions we use without pricing without a climate has been close to micro balance food carbon emissions transcendent equivalent pricing that is higher emission fuels also only the most significant field no producing no carbon economic gas emission fuel got less under rough market lower price and will pay for market costs effectively heavier. If you're taxing what is lower price achieving that current decarbonization phasing out current provide against renewable works like a bird particular rating earnings for regular relevant and additional 3,500 economies hope for payments and type of increase in figures increase students pay to work in one of the recycling taxes being unbilled fees for these taxes as opposed to informing the national average of revenues returned and extinctions and posting model on risk tax savings social risk produced by climate change. 22 climate change plus society pack and state opinion or avoid that rising climate change and sugar conflict disease that multiplies as a vulnerable that bullets and separate kind of irrevocable undermined ability to help climate of war wage and labor risk by back to social boomer shelters avoid aspect of this model over term impact that causes separate 400 and extreme weather conflict disease and less than zero fatalities underestimated risk testing involved following the economic crisis collapse society using climate resilience internet system for fertility numbers or with our months of dominant noise severe carbon carbon and environment impacts of rate rational utility maximization uncertainty about the size of our impact should motivate action to stave off catastrophe certain 22 uncertainty from climate change risk increases 5 because one team after years of ability to move to result in extended economic cascade to more acceptance of amenities or economic event uncertain outlook and problem or not known and other than utility for expected adequate average case tolerate uncertain maximum utility focus trajectories will optimize the especially distribution cycle the risk PPG now get near against catastrophic damage consider the precautionary behavior the government posted in high probability catastrophic outcomes or something across 190 of voting clandestine average outcomes and cumulative effects the small egoistic damage cannot be evaluated statistically accepting risk is informed and now the device catastrophe level less 13 just independent process utility open less important effect of the so-called cumulative effects of the lab and little knowledge knowledge small but cumulative little disinfect the disaster better by important knowledge cumulative effect becomes visible that is too late and defense is misinformation level less 13 3,000 content and for foreseen is when words by evidence are given by the possible engine really delivering by funding campaigns that increase looking at this no data and financial crises are endemic as an equal distribution of income basic income is vital to combat economic disparities right 22 a multitude of welfare 24 people give our rights and people not working and having to be high economic crisis poverty and inequality hot masses the liberal will be dead unless we robbed by stagnation crisis and then bottom actually into low different default for many cascade crises and mean by you got to let's go then inequality driven economic crisis is existential above 21 and makes the risk cascade right after unprecedented still problem makes the inequality trigger for different terms widening has no depends on the middle cascade unemployment spec more than energy induced geopolitical reliance rising and national development and summer holding the OECD that then work for nuclear access to workforce demoralizing pollution environment and other risk stress workers contaminating food demoralizing we're also going to bleed on influence and consumers to high environmental policy sort of even health high religion with the different risk includes Israel China no go for India Pakistan the war of legal contamination Russia and existential risk outweigh or 26 which require mental probability basis on info available influence of probabilities for lead as evidence of both something minutes from any word community ever self love we push around die and any world these are running warnings with elaboration community can find actually really definitely worse than doesn't measure just like a single easy from the worst in history thus the plan the United States federal government should institute a substantial border adjusted carbon tax and basic income contention 2 solvency the plan pays out basic income as dividends from an independently managed sovereign wealth fund financed by ecological taxes. Standing 19, the Council should be a several 4 5 levels of exploitation dividends should be paid from ecological sustainable economy life costs ensure cause and the terms of disruptive practices less than worth of 130% GDP for will you return tax and again on for independent entities spending return by keeping on tax and by tax carbon tax use for natural resources government to be an independent board carbon levy essential components of warranting rates of disruptive liquid achievement by various companies to go into about ecological levels and economy boosted by redirecting subsidy harmoniously paid out dividends to report cost effect every company receiving will not pay every double half point every child dividend initially policy and although company space and even small use basic income big account and basic income starting model over the time and basic income prevents overconsumption and provides resources to adapt to climate change right 22 without even that let the resources and energy bridge property that leave farm with normal details going for summer PC less and land chickens you like you have are free of exploitation car farm defeats resources payments and 2 people at home leads to minimize one decrease environmental impact with a single private support tax pay for you guys to adapt to dividend exceeds prices you buy face poverty climate simultaneously and linking the taxes to dividends is necessary for global uptake of the plan they defeat opposition and create durable popularity delta 22 carbon tax versus avoid again inequality formula time support so offers adaptive tax and returns revenue being possible to degree dark quality saying inequality most important deficits so hard titles and home assessment and availability for income to be paid over realistic figures and what is the national aspect of the United States and countries that don't model are subject to a border adjustment that ensures international solvency Hillman 20 or until 2030% on 2 lines for that the regular economy that disadvantage that companies not short only take action from border adjustment border the time risk will level the plan for the other adopt market tools data has been collected field filtered and doesn't work to the detail of place active resolve tax easily resolve option tax instead of all the time used with this level of other countries tax those back away that encouraging reduction is the whole encouraging legal level of the border of carbon tax and the dividend sends a certain signal to tax under that prevents fossil fuel lock-in. Merit 16, the policy makers consider political valid home bills for use of carbon revenue solving the lower income makes sense on doing so. We're just obviously after an active recommendation and policy reinvestment goal expenditure of the capital carbon tax also pays the business tax Germany more violence is simple to women not to buy the next election on popular home policy presented that basic income is a matter of social justice. It challenges the plunder of the commons by private interest. Standing 20, basic income ethical matter does overtake the plunder of commons by privileged private interest those who being to be compensated basic income the ability to stand on exploitative employment applied every 12, many ends, solid approach to a specific policy, just more tools and method, was attacking the development more nation, the worst for the application policy, one principle, prior commitment, rather beginning, ethical principle, and become empirical assurances of policy under consideration, they remain engaged principles of reason and deliberate over the potential help resolve policy choices and recognize the weight of specific concrete problematic systems of moderate influence of very experiential principles, problems, and difficult to interpret the principle of line complex, experiential certainty, and moral principles, particularly the act that works, is made a contextual response, mental action, do, hypothetical testing, to guide, appreciation, resolution, claims, receive, validity, deliberation, practice, and environmental system, people feel, overtime, and debates. Is there anything else you think I should read?
Not really.
Alright, we're going to cross.
Your evidence says that the AFF's climate models are not or to reject simplistic climate models. Like, what about the AFF is not simplistic?
Our argument is not that the AFF is not simplistic, rather that because of the sheer magnitude of the climate change warming impact, we should not kind of assume based on individual studies that climate change is or is not important because we know it's something that would be
We've
harmful.
critiqued simplistic climate models. I'm wondering, how does the AFF solve the Kemp card if you said simplistic climate
I mean,
models?
the AFF does not need to win that we prevent people from like producing
What about
simplistic
the
climate
AFF is
models.
not simplistic to overcome?
We've not made a claim that the AFF is not simplistic,
mean,
rather
how
that
do
we
you
should
solve
not
that?
use simplistic climate models to determine whether or not climate change is important.
So we should not use simplistic climate models, and the AFF is simplistic.
I didn't say the AFF is simplistic.
You said the AFF is not.
I said the AFF has made a claim about how we should consider climate change when we evaluate impacts.
The way that we frame the climate impact and the rest of the debate will not be simplistic, yes, no question, like traditional impact calc debates. That's that point. on
Is
the
U.S.
Kemp card.
action like the only tipping point for climate change, or will you make like modeling claims?
Well, we have made a modeling claim. We've made the argument A that if other countries see how the United States is implementing climate policy, they might want to do the same. We've also said that the plan incentivizes them to do that because of the tax.
What empirics do you have that other countries are willing and financially able to do that?
I mean, obviously the carbon tax has not been implemented, so we don't have empirics about the carbon tax specifically, but we've read evidence that details how, like in climate policy broadly, other countries would react. That's the implement evidence.
Okay, carbon tax requires funds from the carbon emissions. How does the plan provide money for basic income once the emissions go down?
Yeah, so the standing evidence says that if we've solved warming 100% and there's no more emissions to tax, they would use other ecological taxes to fund the plan.
Okay, sure. What are those other ecological taxes?
I think it says taxes on like other negative externalities, carbon use of natural resources, things like that.
Okay, standing 17 card, the third to last card says that it's key to challenge fascism. How does the internal link of debating fiat in here engage with challenging fascism?
Yeah, our evidence describes that in order to kind of transform and like imagine like or achieve a better future, we need to imagine kind of what those solutions would look like. And even if that's not something that would happen, it is important to consider kind of the methodologies through which we would achieve those
You've
solutions.
critiqued abstract theorization. What is the difference between that and just imagining the plan happening?
I think the mechanism of considering like how the plan's specific proposal would result in the solvency of specific impacts
How does that
allows
work
us to
actually?
then compare different proposals for how we might resolve those impacts, which means that we kind of over the course of the year iteratively consider
does
what
that
is the
make
best
sense?
solution.
Yeah, it's about political energy and the political education in order to try and
So you
actualize
have to
the
win that
impacts.
fiat creates political energy.
No,
No,
you have to win that the plan
it's
is
more
more
about
like
education, and also, like, people right now think that universal basic income is so utopian. Learning and debating about the actual effects of implementation is key to actually achieving some of the remediation that the current status quo cannot solve for.
Lindsay sent one off that is.
I'm good, whatever.
Okay. Tanner, all good? Right. Debate is structured by an arc of redemption built around the axis of black subjugation. In response to the resolutional question, prefigure the argument of protocols that crowd out a grammar suffering that can speak to the monster or viciously destroys black being the rhetorical form of the one he sees Simon's energies into modalities of humanists to address their parasitic on black sufferings in Wilderson 16. The power is the question is the greatest power. The way the question is posed in the world today cannot be reconciled back from precedents. The question is always posed in order for redemption assumes the instance of equilibrium and disequilibrium to remove the trap product and the narratives and mood redemption after pessimism and dawn. And offering the historical redemption and restoration of body need to redress the historical structure the demand for debate. The protocols are ideological in order for black suffering to be part of the debate. Question have to go through a structural adjustment to look like the suffering of someone that would be a narrative of real imagined redemption structure and the question how to relive the suffering that didn't happen before. But with respect to blacks, you cannot tell the story of the invasion before the destruction. But without that, you don't think about repetition as opposed to redemption. And their cost-benefit calculations depend on the consumption of black vitality and flesh as spectacularized, spectacle for racialized capitalists refuse to give them a pat on the back for playing a game that's indebted to the endless necropolitical elimination of black bodies. Goodman 19. Racialized splitting produced the white subjectivity, enslaved outer body rendered flesh matter experience upon racial systematic operations, destroyed material generational. Black bodies have been produced as a vibrant reservoir spectacle, seemingly bottomless African resource that intrinsic element of white supremacy and capitalism makes black racialized consumers, calculus, ownership, and representation of sexualized and violated black body enjoyed the excess of the embodied reaction of violence and harm treats and blackness the power to ontology, not one that yearns for metaphysical sustainability, nor proclaimed patterns, void, nor threats of modernity, scientific culture, 21st century designations, not such a thought never stops attending how matter is remainder, and the one he sees a historical dream is wedded to an ontology of change that universalizes temporal progression for all bodies without evidence, refuse the speculative vampirism that compels the repetition of black labor for civil pleasure. Warren 21. Imagination combined the uncombinable fashions of the new knowledge of black sustained through racism for avoidance that is malleable and ontology, changing not provided self-declaration seems to be enough in the speculative vampirism, trace the survival speculation that outrageous and expenditure of energy, scholarly, surplus pressure requiring incessant political repetition, we abandon time to enable imagination to perform the mystical ontology exchange is an evidence of the contrary, preserve capitalism on surplus pleasure and black suffering letters forth the black imagination and enterprise that sustain the spiritual energy investments all we have in. The theory of the world is wrongly racist. To rely on the Western conception of sovereignty, racialized depictions of anarchy, absurd Western values, and assumes a wide rational neoliberal subject of the core decision-making. Hobson 22. While liberals construct a progressive policy supporting the racism of average race scholars point to racial control in the ground, getting cycle, periodic moments of black victory, roll back with white backlash, and higher can embrace a value-free positivistic posture to which racial hatred has been finally accessible to reality, saw a new worldview in which explicit racism replaced with self-liminal cultural racism, monoism, Western academics exist in themselves from racist tropes to from them in whitewashed terms and demise the scientific race and not be the end of racist thinking and scholarly discourse. And the one he sees saturated by bioeconomics and humanist mode of thought that declares the apocalypse originates from economic and geopolitical phenomena that erase black ontology by humanism allows the humanist system to narrate a tale of its own reconstruction, dignity, and social meaning allow blackness to be criminalized in academia and policymaking, with policymakers sorting the pragmatic solutions that only reify their impact. That turns case bioeconomics is so deeply ingrained in cognitive processes that it causes serial policy failure and repetition. Gagny 7. The shift of our present conception of man that places our people of African descent and global transition rapidly homeless, jobless, criminalized, the zero most factor of the other has to be a cultural shift, not an economic one, and so such a rupture is brought forth economic inequalities, liberal policies, race, gender, class, and environment warming, and resource remain the status quo, the order, produce the system wherein by jobless black youths would be knowing it's involved in an order that reproduces the deepest level of human cognition, calling into question the present culture's purely biological definition, what is to be human devaluation of blackness functions, the encoding or present biocentric statement that human is instituting the human is an active discipline subject of experiences occur from the neutral processes that origin of species make our own knowledge of reality of present definition of human that is became acquainted with the Western bourgeoisie man and those already secular human processes that must be first strictly instituted and regulated, normalized, legitimized, what is to be controlled economic conception of human produced and reproduced by academic disciplines, economic apparatus, and function identity, not the other way around. We cannot see because we are in, we know to get order out of it in order to see how it works. And the alternative is active passivity, the alternative is radical negativity, refuses questions of political feasibility and liberal choice in favor of changing coordinates of bodies so as to pose a demand in excess of any present imagination. Afro-pessimism is an ethics which insists on abolition as a foundation for ending the world. Barbara Section 17. We can approach another only through our experience of mutual weakness, so intensification, negativity is a way of thinking seriously. There's no such thing as positive, aggressive, strangling, and negative. Depends on what negativity is inseparable from the event, learning, immense, the expectation, realization, investment, in linear temporality, questions about blackness seems so much time itself in ability, the seizing of the universality is integral, time of meaningless and personal dialogue is afterlife, action is retroaction, why not political intellectuals, who result in conservative activity, why worry or fear about being passive individual collectivity, and attention between active states rise the ground for symbolic and material production and regenerative differences of race, gender, sexuality, class, but no longer sustainable action, rather, term or disappear, no action can be made within this term to force choice rather than as our passivity should be the state of politics without passivity, without a negative capability of sending creative imagination, chaotic imagination, turns for new promises of willing to rigum, competes with the desperate demand to do something hard, try to attain the more. It evades you of difficulties arising from an abandonment or negative or our enthusiasm for the affirmative case. 1. Large-scale threats to future suffering, state hegemonic claim on moral urgency that makes the bodily violence of imperialism illegible, deferring its party to an awaited future that will never come. Interrupt this temporal black and origin bodies. Suffering structural violence across the globe can no longer wait. Olson 15. large scale tests to destroy moral reasoning learned by young people has bigger skills over develop urgency of security, create new skills, some orders, their bodies control the suffering happy urgency because they're excluded from potential activity that's being suffering evidence of future time. This is built in bias for action, large scale future emergencies with the deliberate power of emergency in institutions to the assumed priority of a large scale urgent body became a literal non-sweet waiting in people assessing the instructional possibilities of present by delaying to a future moment waiting, counter undermine self-care waiting and function as technology delaying to retain claims over moral urgency, insisting that the suffering body and others which cannot wait as an ethical effect of drawing into consideration alongside the scope of large scale future research to bias towards urgency of large scale future moral reasoning, explosive bias against subjugated people and prize rational struggles, saving the world requiring a debate about whose world is being saved and moral alternatives, already existing ongoing and emerging revolution called urgency, will certainly be used as obscure evasion of responsibility. 2. Linking UBI to a dividend means there's an incentive to pollute. Howard 17. Carbon dividend will fade away as the carbon rising demand will fall. The climate demand will surprise the rising price of the dividend. Were more important than tax money, it could lead to preserve efforts and reduce environmental impact in order to prolong and maximize the dividend. Carbon dividend is only a temporary fix. 3. Basic income is anti-black. Actually, skip the third part. 4. Locks in inequality by refusing conditions for upward mobility of Innova 19. Working for the government will likely be a road of financial insecurity, volatility, and stabilization is starting suddenly they don't pay you the lower pay than earned in the private sector. 5. This logic of climate sustainability is not just a domestic crisis of NEG entropy, but an exported internationally as well. International modeling over climate change and sustainability thus becomes a means for expansion of imperial balance and U.S. interests abroad. Bill 12. Move the geographic orientation to the environment. Aerial domination aerial should not signal the destructive potential of climate change, but also spatial informational arrangement, data analysis, television activity that rewrite the military arts are putting the enemy instead of the aerial on the battlefield becomes either rise on wars of maybe evidence with life and subject of security policy regards nature as a functioning part of the atmospherically embedded or machine violence. I'm probably naming parts. Violence is presumed to be exist as an effective safety in the imaginary of zone in civil society, war seeped in the civil society, unsatisfactory, reduced to equalities of war, seamless next step in the perpetuation of imperial dominance. Our strategic studies insist on climate change represents on trapping for engaging in war and rape, from global telesurveillance, drone warfare, and weaponizing culture to climate change, power transmission, chaos theory. Climate refugees items have not been found until the hearing of war. And 6. Economic securitization presents a picture of systemic uncertainty, unpredictability, and potential collapse that leads to a kind of arms race organizing out the need to defend the integrity of the system in the face of endless threats. Featherstone 17. Absolute security of the market economy that creates systemic tipping points everyday economy where calculation ability to hedge against fluctuation enables the maintain a stability economy is like a rather complex system, often turbulent idea of stability is a fantasy premised on belief of equilibrium. The complexity of the contemporary economy means that if properties are comparable to those of gases having unpredictable gifts, the speed of global process driven by suffering continuation of interspace with global risk and global accident and butterfly. Defect humans are simply part of a global cybernetic machine that makes money, wages for no particular reason. The collapses economics and socialized in a post-political world where culture becomes little more than a blizzard of zeros and ones. Technical development and environmental control are rooted in a white security state that justifies neo-imperialism amongst the extinction events it's caused. Grove 18. Control over the environment is essential to the component of American empire. The process of making the environment knowable and useful figures in the rise of modern security state and environmental problems are brought on the case of statecraft and energy security environments managed by the U.S. Navy, the Western Agricultural Department, and hyper-militarized technoscience suspend the intensified U.S. hegemony regimes and odds that enable.
What that enable?
Oh yeah, once we get the
Does anyone know how to get rid of the markup area in a Word doc?
What's that?
I don't know, my computer did it and it just like
Can
kind
you
of.
click on this thing?
No, I did. It's still there.
Is it, wait, can you click your computer?
It's like this markup area, it's like where comments are supposed to be, but I resolved the comment that it accidentally made and it's just there.
Have you tried just like zooming in?
I did.
Oh.
Is there like an X on the top right?
No.
On Windows, there's a tab that's review and says all markup, and there's a drop down menu. I don't know if that's the same with that.
All markup.
And then drop down menu to no markup.
Review. Oh, review.
That's something.
Oh, thank you. Of course, got rid of it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's not the part.
Yeah, looks like we got it. But for cross?
Yep.
What does it mean to have an active passivity?
Yeah, it like refuses the question of like something to do. The Barber and Sexton evidence makes the argument that the question of something to do is always tied to an arc of redemption that always leaves blackness behind and is contingent on anti-black violence. It says that we should actively be passive in politics, refuse to engage in systems of anti-blackness.
What does it mean
That's
to-
the only way to create lines of light for true structural change.
What does it mean to refuse to engage?
Like it's what it means, like do not do anything, like
So,
be passive.
Instead of refusing, what should you do? Or instead of doing that thing,
Like
by
we've
refusing,
impact
what
turned that
should you
question of what to do. That's what the alternative is impact turning.
do? Okay, so.
Like the constant question of what to do is what the first voters in evidence described as an arc of redemption that always tries to move from disequilibrium to
So the
equilibrium.
alternative is a lack of action.
It's actively being passive, however you
What
want.
does it mean to actively be passive?
Bro, you're
Just to
saying-
choose to
asking
be
the
passive?
Same questions over and over again.
Alright,
He's
that's
not
Because
doing
you're not
it.
answering.
That's fine. What does it mean to embrace abolition as the foundation for ending the world?
Sure.
What is, the sex evidence?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's saying that in order to find like a new world, to do that, you have to start with abolition, which means taking down the existing structure.
When you say find a new world, what are you describing?
Like
Like-
engage in solutions, find like solutions to problems, like the one AC is described, but the
So
one AC
how
is
does this
described.
passivity lead to finding new
We think
solutions?
the process of ending, or the end goal of ending the world is inevitably like pessimist praxis says that like ending the world provides a world where anti-blackness is not one that is an ontological structure and condition. We think that abolition is the starting point.
Right, so how does this passivity result in said end of the world?
Yeah, we think that the drive to like take action and the compulsion to take action is exactly what caused our anti-black desires to colonize the future and imagination. We think that by refusing these anti-black drives, by remaining passive, the sex evidence gives like libidinal arguments about how that causes
Got it,
us to,
got
like,
it, thanks.
confront those anti-black drives.
How does active passivity cause a transition away from fossil fuels?
We haven't made the claim that the
Well,
old cells
it's not-
have.
So it doesn't result in a
Well,
transition.
first of all, like, we impact on renewables.
Okay, so how does the alternative result in a world where there's less economic inequality?
Like, we don't know what the alternative will look like. That's the whole point of it. The only way to create new lines of flight and create new generative spaces of being is to be passive. We don't know what that will look like, but the argument is that it's better than the status quo because it's only a risk that it can reverse the ontologization of blackness. And
How-
move to ending the
What is the burden for winning that there is only a risk that the status quo makes something worse, or the app makes something worse?
winning ontology means the status quo is always bad and anti-black.
Barber says that difficulties, quote, arise abandonment of the negative in our enthusiasm for the affirmative. Could you describe, like, I guess, what are the problems with being enthusiastic about said
Yeah, it's like
affirmative
the past 3 minutes, we've criticized the idea that we need to do something, we need to affirm something. Our argument is that only creates new systems of anti-blackness.
Okay, if it is question, no. Okay, 7:42.
I'm gonna get food, it's just from next door, so.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm not prepping, I'm just getting my flow.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I'll wait to send it out. Okay, I sent it. The order is gonna be the environment advantage, the solvency question, the pay. No problem.
Wait, I got that comment thing too, how did you fix it?
You just go to review and then all markups, no markup. And it should fix it. I can help if you don't.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay. You good?
It dropped the terminal impact of climate change exceeds causes extreme drought and sea level rise, biodiversity, which is lost, evaporated from capacity and infrastructure that's the camp evidence and ocean acidification, it detects CO2 marine biodiversity, disregard all their defenses, the same as climate change analysis that the Woodward evidence from the solvency convention 1 was that linkage creates incentive to pollute, but it's not true. Linkage creates the better large scale incentives for the tax to be durable, and large scale threats are not suffering a hegemonic claim. It's good to prioritize climate change impact. That's a lawful evidence. All the misinformation and defense and all the claims like hegemonic reforms is not what the structural claim that the affirmative is made. The modeling stuff it's not true. The affirmative has made a claim to improve hegemony or imperialism by the U.S. modeling. Following stuff is about economic incentives from the border district climate carbon tax, climate change securitization stuff. It's not true. Don't discourage prioritize the server epistemic adjustments. Talk about inequalities. More responsible. They call on page 23. Zero tolerance attitude to demand of starting awareness and clear trade apart from words that fall short. Demanding secure when the right words are paid on the focus responsibility and organizing the service not any cages or whatever. Video condition movements right for everyone. We got to words every terrible and active people like circle and ideas turn the action. Putting in that over practice every where people are so ready to make things not have analysis for them and also the law of organizing our constitutional call. More vulnerable and security and then people are organizing on each other don't happen or people are allowed to make mistakes out of the shop and punishment and everything. We don't know how we don't know. And then if we don't know this the people working for people power them in the world for the sake of life and allows them rules are good for the environment even when the resources acquired. No exploitation links and that answers 1 and 4 and McGill 14. We open the polar project of the low 2050 how the early climate environmental impact and readers are pollution by the need for extracting pollution and the raw materials for the protect the first of life and then why critical world life over time environmental impact and like even there will reason to be world raw materials in America recycled and study healthcare by the benefits of renewable technologies for greenhouse gas emissions on the securitization bat that was above on the Grove argument but Grove is too pessimistic about better days potential tell us when they reject their thesis when harm don't we have done we won't know harm growth pessimistic literally hopes for taking damaging inertia and government someone when it is the regard including growth and disagree with the weather and expectations of the high pressure higher authority populace the growth does our problem like kind of however make this an natural Coppell the populace of a wide program finally the resistance cannot change a world of populace just as much as that is a really appealing option the correct option that answers all their IR invites obviously on the solvency argument they've dropped the fiat and they're imagining specifically the state use of UBI is epistemically valuable because it allows us to understand how the utopian era of UBI would be implemented and it is key to organizing social justice movements which is uniquely key. They've also dropped the existential inequality impact from the 1AC that means that they conceded the NAVIC evidence that it goes nuclear on the K proper. 1. The framework, the negative must rejoin the plan by proving there's a unique opportunity cost, otherwise ultimate mutually exclusive of the plan. 2 impacts. 1. Competitive clash and lower burden for the negative creates a strategic incentive to avoid the negative contrary the world wants research and extract the favor you lose frameworks unpredictable utopian fiat that acts can effectively for competitive clash is the intrinsic good of debate is a determined feature of activity and essential part of whether regard purposes might turn the king the framework restricting nuance and negative for the sake of attraction doesn't make it radical obscures our investment in every structure they create. Mitchell 20. What is an understanding of the benefits and gives out with your analogy whether others live critical to members that it doesn't sound like game over a nonsensical bind to reduce violence and make sense of the point of the hell of a everyone benefit is many theoretical information that those deteriorating system of profiling theory and knowledge is no way to theory that Jesus has to discover the truth that is self-abrided and analytical practice and figure out how to create both the abstract in terms of state children and state sober commodity than a theoretical occasion abstract and leads to very complicated because might not make sense to the theoretical organization and different global context of life person my person makes it power with anything other than normal image or any other fact includes the truth about my person why the fact people embrace sacrifice make ideas and just well and theoretical politics not confidence by sure by theory virtue that exists military feelings of no one has questions uncertainty or demands any specificity because of specificity and perm to both the lands of climate reparation that recognizes disparities and responsibility for climate emissions environmental racial injustice or interlinked and all 23 impacts of climate change in the code of climate not even developed environmental racism from that disaster to how the word is reparation the rectifying ours falls for climate reparation possible disparity with the result of difference in responsible for emissions and disparities with the U.S. many communities live close to the climate change and reparation and adaptation to minimize the impact and dismantle inequity and destruction of the environment and non-opposite presidents live from the U.S. into highest economy and surrogate president or talk about the most global major climate process close to larger than the U.S. has the obligation to provide leadership to other actors that review racial justice part of effective climate policy advocacy making explicit organization policy developing around justice and representatives and compromise with transfer of the world looking policy representatives more than financial transfer opportunity to make amends. Cut the card up, make amends and on the thesis liberal explanations for the good variety that can not prove that the plan is bad once again explanations or references or reduction of all planners and all 22 psychological reasons individual videos video of the airline category come by the impression that injuries or disparities of role and is a different individual change that I do have to not waste the paradigms of all the region incorporate politics in the moment that the much why people goes and how to overcome and reveal impact of racism and no racism or power growth and any like this is not exclusively liminal of 21 we should also by a number of problems by the racism and this is complex but by or equating discrimination and economic changes and really priorities and psychological purposes and count it's not pure foresight and generalizing it's just open ended open like to be referred to everything culture the food over the music
law, cut the law, and on the gang evidence, the rising domination over representation of man is a narrative occurred, reproduces violence of human hierarchies, handled 15 witnesses, and indestructible force of man. She makes it a connection between the humanism of man and the fundamental rethinking political apologies, and not always clear how the because of common constitution of sandwiches, the privilege and narrativization is the primary not exclusive form of domination, but the creatures are only humanism is necessary struggle against man on the calculation link, empiricism against the mean, emancipatory, job of wood, 18. The empiricism radical from marginal position may clarify giving combating any character carries decisions and more equitable social policy, emancipatory empiricism for provided justification for social opportunity, but there is every by the social ordinance united understanding of inequality, reduction of the combating stereotypes of the fact by Benjamin research, purchasement of required better about community study research that bring parallel research image, this would be all violating notions that prepare for life work. Like, can you give me this flavor focus wrong from the K identity toolbox? Thank you. All active passivity should be used in political collusion like not doing carbon dip and for 21, but our president is always about lack of politics and debate on what is to be done. Only thing to do with the memory have improving rural criteria for knowledge of reason incredibly easy call something anti-black like reason. Then the human security for proof that isn't black enough the way equal for black people, not only for the race to show the people of the whole which black people that should forget the myth of American all other probably just go out and making united against common enemy. All of the policy good stuff, and specifically the concept of the UBI and the 1AC all preempts all their all solvency arguments. And even if it should, what they've done is insufficient pessimism, not prescriptive habits 18. But the dark of the challenge of radical action times is one other challenges are all for many hurdles that emerge from intellectual undecidable issues. What you know, what you do, our hopes and what you try now, critical interpretation. Let us in the fact of the repetitions of everything not helpful, resolve, and testing, answer, violent, position, not civil, the matter of general attraction being comforted by our experience, communication, those way to read, and you can better run the worst and exam from learning from the required serious injury than a popular argument, relative to the conduct of when it comes to revolutions, and it's sort of revolution of what means that we have not determined what we should get on the barber and section card, act capacity to end the world, these current political coordinates, intact, that's intriguing than the worst, analogy and solidarity are good, Donald 20, overcoming social necessary, how publicly to where one so is political view, the creator of the pin, or load treated, and the world where you are the ship, you be extremely sure the policy is rooted in true harmony, the religion of black people situation, the world police raise their fault in any ways, and they come in harmony, and the white theory communities not only fail to have the end of the world, give suckers, the projects that and they offer the back any black worse than anyone since there's no one think we have little room for the idea that black children getting inside back, to be able to get little terrorism by the working class struggle, one man on the right strategy, I don't know, build a comment in the stated interest of people who are in addition to career, and religious and capitalist who are immigrant working class digits or incarcerated in the outside and theories, such as the higher states and the big view, abolitionary ability with the view that underrated abortion and the social acceptable order, even abortion, and also what's no decision concerned like it's not like the venom of the matches against a moment that sees them abortion, population, suffering, pessimism, abortion because it's impossible to invent a was the thoroughly arguable virgin in the political implemented relations with elites willing to monetize black suffering is both an antidote. That's fine.
The card you wanted me to send out was the Cuban wood.
Oh, okay.
Was that it?
Yeah, it was also the Pappas card. Yes.
Is there another card being sent?
No, I didn't read another card. I thought it wasn't in the document. I read it, so.
Okay,
Oh,
cool.
it was in the document.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Alright, framework was the only impact competitive clash.
Yeah, in fairness.
Fairness, what's the warrant?
Obviously you've chirped the entirety of the 1AC. We don't believe that's a fair burden for us.
How have we chirped the 1AC?
You haven't interacted with our impact scenarios.
Well, I disagree, but we'll make arguments about that.
Okay.
On case, I was making arguments about no modeling the equivalent of climate denialism.
Yeah, it's not the no modeling claims that I said were climate denialism. It's saying that progress in the state is impossible, or that we shouldn't do something, or we shouldn't try climate policies because of
So
this
saying
like
state
supposed.
bad equals saying climate change is not an impact?
Yes, saying say bad to any sort of attempt to do climate policy is bad. None of your links were about a carbon tax. It was just about U.S. modeling or U.S. imperialism, which were historical examples, sure, but they weren't prescriptive
Okay,
or
I guess,
necessarily
like,
to the 1AC.
What makes it so that 1AC would not recreate those kinds of imperialism then?
Yeah, we haven't made any arguments that the U.S. is going to go in with diplomats or like military forces to enforce the carbon tax. It's enforcing the border district carbon tax on
Okay.
its own borders. All the economic incentive modeling stuff is claims
Let's
about
talk
other
that.
countries,
So,
their political
Your
willpower.
plain text says a border adjusted carbon tax. What
Yes.
does border adjustment mean?
It adjusts at the border, so countries who do not have their own carbon tax will have to pay the tax at the United States border. That's the economic incentive. We don't
Okay,
go
so
in
it
with
sounds like
military.
your economic incentive is if you don't put up a carbon tax.
Yeah, it's
you're gonna
economic
tax the
incentives
shit
for
out of
countries like India and China, who are big industrial nations that are large
So how is
emitters
this
of
not
carbon.
coercion then? It's not like an economic incentive if you're just forcing them to pay a shit ton of money to trade with the US.
That is an economic.
Okay, so it is coercion and imperialism.
It's not
as an
coercion and
economic
imperialism.
incentive.
I don't understand that link you're making because we're making claims about China, India, the EU's their willpower, not the US's willpower to try and go and enforce the other countries. We've read evidence that countries want to follow on to the border district carbon tax. You
Okay,
haven't
I guess,
contested
like,
that claim.
China, India, etc. Why do they want to follow on?
Yeah, because they're economically incentivized to. It's more expensive for them to pay the tax to the United States than to their own countries.
Okay, let's go to the K. Permutation alternative is to not do anything, the act does something, how does the firm work?
Yeah, you've mentioned that the not doing anything argument is in order to resolve all your impacts. We believe portions of the 1AC can resolve those impacts too. The Donahoe card says that in the context
Also,
of
it's
climate
like a
change.
case solves, okay, that makes sense. Your Henderson evidence under like the libidinal economy literally says, quote, psychological research can challenge racism. How do we not solve for psychological biases?
It says psychological research can challenge racism, but you have to incorporate it into different contexts. You can't just prescribe it to
What
the
different
entirety
contexts?
of history.
What different contexts?
Yeah, there's lots of different ways that the world works. There's many complex systems. Saying that there's one driver of imperialism, colonialism, capitalism is ahistorical and wrong. So that's what the claim is making. Like, you can't prescribe one psychological theory to like every single action that like the West has done.
Okay, that makes sense, there's websites. What's it like? 8 minutes, starting.
Order to move K. Framework is moving.
I'd say just put framework on a separate sheet.
A review sheet?
Shit.
Oh, no, he said put framework on
I don't know.
it.
Yeah, but you also
Oh,
want like a
sorry.
review sheet.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
That should be.
Slight preference for. Take a water there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also good.
Okay, good.
Slavery should be throughout the maximum captivity. There's two reasons. One, civil or civil submission, for private pleasure and alienation, some against culture, touch cultures, false spirituality, and gender dishonor. Third is the African subject of black water. The answer is to the slave master rule. 2 is absolve slave masters, even if continuously true. We shall elevate to blackness as ontological to prevent white pacification masters can suffer responsibility by claiming the terms and cause for non-diabet, which about water. B3 is the limit only kind of human relational slaves and fixed. 3 to unlock the failure forever. The reinforces civil side second condition A is your juice watching up. 11 plus the constitution black people share benefits political is ignore the repeat of non-black people, black people do so. Limited only economies that see is out of proportion. You see cross-rating 3 million despite adverse impact of financial security, fear of black people, trust that cost of analysis of the power versus crack cocaine, distinction two identical, but biggest is black crack can see 100 times more million dollars of victim phobia, we get the gradual. Also, the study offer bleeds you with the use of white women and women examples are not isolated. B, near favorite tools use the gold standard, not reductive anti-black reactions that demand transparency and affirmation make phobias de facto, not deter. That's version 19. Why does functional causation, why does it have non-agent to black energy go organize affirmation, recognition, people with frustrated for affirmation, racial emotion, may operate unconscious solution, rational calculation, shots, and mind, body, think now, we reason with that. Different choices can account for whiteness and structure, person, viewpoint, blackness, now has been such a substitute integration produced by lecture by human C, anti-blackness, genetic cancer, social construct, Morgan, and trust scientific evidence again, tropic looking for very far to the future, and for genes of future generations, systemic racism impact not just community, but also epigenomic and genetic change in response to this is starts to alter expression of gene or dots. You can tell without gene outline DNA sequence or some could prevent genetic change and maintain racial inequities for sure, but such a premise also culture such like trauma can get under skin impact and mental health now. Group case outweighs 16 to bring it to the top one. It's the temporal blackmail link to warrants a temporal blackmail spectaculars, large scale threats obscures the urgency body suffering now, urgency must be constantly deferred until eventually erase the legitimate concerns for future tropes like 16 outweighs effectively erase the maximum suffering bodies to impact happens be is about proximity voting negative draws attention to those suffering now, and insisting that those bodies cannot wait any longer. Proximity outweighs maximum. It's the only impact their back resolved to the consequences of the said conning. FPC sacrificial of the scenarios with no constitutional consideration come obvious that is said to ignore endorse a great number of negative associated until he goes in the international translation never creates good 3 detachment to said York and then 3 to becoming something that culture just not fascination or charging game language as real political which consequences not be able to change world issues or could be not permutation group them we could drop them you so good negative you can't permute models debate links turns case and it's a dissent to their scholarship one severance on a contingency and intrinsic to add active passivity to their human scholarship those are both voters for next class and then it's such responsibility to choose the ethical knowledge and turn repeat it next with the ethics of beliefs society told that's a person individual place right then miracles that person will change the heart of pursue the golden sun and will get that sort of perpetuate solution white people turns on argumentation sources starts exciting speculative repression general second part below also to focus on depression analysis which show death victims cease by magnification and short total thoughts of disappointment number one anti-rights and expression and that includes self-inflicted reaction suicide 3 links all this has all been spectrum very personally cure hospital analysis non-existent desirable world a physical policy attributes to the United States change moral qualities yet to be demonstrated even if the land the possible benefits actually inherent in congressional luck and focus that degrading natural prisoners barriers to plan ever actions in the real world care and the Glenbrook North process hypothetical the full noise events cannot be solved repetition coalition turns the case they be interdiction what if temporal they recasting possibility driving circles questions turns all their access to the fiat creates material contingent change because that agency is not possible because we're repeatedly assimilated to the dopamine that comes from affirmative ballots rather than change itself cause black results not makes it complicit change this warrant evidence now next to the bioeconomics and gagging percent of permitting human subjects etc the human in this economic rational of labor value deterrence gauge common change inequality war inevitable unless we map new lines fly away from our current conception of the human for example works in Congo pre-human expression on the game shelter food and preserve the environment solely because the spiritual intricacies while African monarchs under gold with no expectation benefits poles and that post the colonial occupation respectable of the equality post European by European empires caused those same people to violently antagonize each other destroy the environment to be respectable enough for the masters of their eye the Hutu and Tutsi conflict where the Hutu genocide the Tutsi because the Tutsi had too much imperial recognition which caused interpersonal violence which is the same thing that causes the violence on the environment also the border just the carbon tax imposes a demand for dignity on other countries Tutsi cross-sex explicitly explains that border adjustment means that countries who don't comply are economically coerced into complying by getting heavy taxes through the border adjustment don't let them gaslight you into thinking other countries want to follow on but they have no choice to follow on since it's a forced choice to either collapse your economy through huge tax are feed into U.S. imperialism also we have codes first in the 2016 19 evidence says quote they could learn and refine human dignity imparting civic values and participating in their reinforcement without unquote this proves that the ass use of dignity is used to propose that black people who do not engage in quote human decency and quote civic values or reinforcement system within the United States now go down to the theory of power debate that I'll answer the mutual evidence 1 for two response and effect intellectuals which a deductive conclusion of other theory and scholars and provided after pessimism as a practical response to it is not circular logic 2 mutual link to their claims for fairness fairness is good because it sustains the game and the game is good because it's fair they've done impact defense of themselves second the next argument was the dominant you evidence not climate reparations will do the link debate here renewables are good for the environment people ignores unequal exchange and labor power needed for it which causes exploitation of global south and just repeats the climate disasters that happen exports it elsewhere I'll extend it here the applicants a pretty green face on the future through rhetoric like sustainable energy and taxes on non-renewables to transition to lithium and Zionists to implement renewables which obfuscates the harmful process of those development plantations required to maintain stable occupations that's the growth evidence and Lincoln still a value set in debaters and encourages the exploitation of global south because it's more profitable next to Henderson evidence the alternative does confront liberal compulsions for action domination rooted in anti-blackness which would be below on the alternative debate the book evidence is answered by Birch above neurochemical studies prove the basis for anti-blackness which they do not have any evidence on they just assert that there is now the King Watts evidence King Watts is correct that there is a spectrum but that doesn't define social death itself you can find social life within social death but that
that spectrum does not leave and join the practice that the human itself, i.e. blackness, is divorced from the category of human. Now the Mills evidence sustains white supremacy and patriarchy by falsely attributing, actually I'm not going to go for the IR link. Skip the Mills evidence, I don't need to answer it, there's no offense here. Hand-tool evidence is not a good answer to Gagne's theorization that was above. We've run physiological studies above that prove Hand-tool's arguments that we're not rooted in science is wrong now. They said empiricism is good, fiat over time is bad. They say impact turn to all of their fiat arguments and does not solve any of the case growing of that's purpose and truth, the growing awareness of warming rather than encouraging high ecological consciousness of precipitation retreat to after growing. Privileged information does not enhance ability to comprehend the environment. How imagination turns to ability to mature temporal scale ecological catastrophe demands of structure reduce human intimacy to the environment that processed by the model structure in the atmosphere while for ground sources phenomena that humans understand through after coming model for projection. This would be featured in fluid consciousness perspective technological and intervention common in approximate math structure that is alienation from nature. Your Western nations say verifiability become raw material for knowledge or pour up say obtain stores and process future tries to comfort tangled social material agency futures communicated in terms of fragmental possibility future tends to consider impacts of carbon geoengineering, hotter temperature, scarcity, decline population, large scale events, takes each of the human must adapt to maximus modes and knowing its subject cannot be disentangled from epistemological insecurity. Now group board and then brown evidence with the Papas 18 evidence all do the alternative below, but first I'll answer the inevitable climate debate being denialism argument they'll make later. Extend the D-go to the Randall's evidence. You should go beyond surface level rationalism to understand the climate situation. And remember, Wednesday Camp is a terrible piece of evidence for them to read because it was made clear in Wednesday Crossings that they are no less simplistic than the models that they critique. Now I'll go down to the alternative theory. Should refuse to participate and instead embrace bad blackness to active passivity. They concede unique this argument how blackness interacts with the political trade. The demand or refusal lies outside all parameters of realizability, which means the only option is to affirm active passivity, voting negative dwells into this incoherence. A refusal of the AFF plan mandate because there's Juventus anti-black research world. You vote not after throw the hands off the wheel. You might never know exactly what the trajectory of the ultra generates, but you know the refusal of anti-blackness here in the wake of debate, which clears the ground for true activity. You can't change the state, you can change the state based on the black community starts you can little fake it, think about your politics, have a stance on that. Then it's like that are called the traction motion, anti-black worship, and fitting like really demonstrate attention. Just like I do, this one African Americans having some potential for master need to return to say for mortality, even it makes more to be generational. I'm not sure what fails in 1 year.
Victor Cross?
Yeah.
I want to start an ontology debate. This Mulligan 21 card is simply about like genetic trauma that passes down. Nowhere does it make the claim that it is genetic in like non-black people. How do you think it substantiates this claim?
Yeah, we think that trauma is like what contributes to the intergenerational healing.
No, you made the claim that anti-blackness is genetic, but this
Yeah, we think
card
that's
is
like-
about how black people
We
suffer
think that
from
the
racism.
recipients of anti-black violence genetically transfer it down.
How?
Well, the Mulligan evidence talks about epigenetic changes, which are not like within the DNA sequence itself, but like how the DNA is coded together.
Yes, that's about epigenetic sequence changes in non-black people.
Yeah.
How, in black people.
Yeah, that's the argument.
That's not the claim that the ontology debate.
I said like and the recipients of anti-blackness generationally pass down that violence. That's what I've said.
Yes, but where does that make the claim that non-black people are
I have
genetically
not
predisposed to
I don't know where you
racism?
got that from. That's not the cards. That's not the
That's
cards.
what the, okay. On the neurophysiology argument, what kind of study is this citing?
Yeah, so Burge Evans cites neurophysiological studies, which means that it's a combination of neuroscience as well as different chemical activity within the brain.
This is one study. What kind of metrics did they use for this study?
Honestly, like I
How many
don't know.
people?
But like we have more studies.
Do you think that is prescriptive to the entirety of the non-black human population?
Yeah, because like it's like biological.
What about differences in colorism in societies that didn't have black people to
It's
begin
a
with?
biological statement. Like humans are like 99% similar, and more than that in DNA. Like you can't really invade neuroscience by saying human people are different. Like humans are different because like that plasticity happens after birth. Like the brain is developed while you're.
All right, that's on the win condition. What's the win condition for the negative?
It'll be in the winter.
Okay. On the detachment dissad, the Sullivan 17 card, this is about racial benefit fatigue. Where does it say you cannot change the state?
The first line
The
says
first
that-
line says Black Americans need new strategies expanding beyond the.
Yes, but where does that new strategy exclude engaging with the state?
It says expanding beyond liberal faith, which means we cannot have liberal faith. Liberal faith is like the belief in the state.
How is
That's
liberal
just
faith
like-
endemic to state power? Like
I-
non-liberals engage with the
I
state
don't want to
all the
like
time.
define words for you. Like I think the sentence means what you think it means.
No, it doesn't. I'm asking you what you think
Liberal faith is like faith in institutions. The state is an institution. That's why we have to expand.
There are many forms of non-liberal state institutions.
Okay, but that's still belief in the state.
Whatever. On the pathologization stuff, what do you mean by like demand on dignity?
I'm not sure.
The carbon tax link, the demand on dignity?
Yeah, well, we've linked to dignity as like there's like, I'm a little bit confused on the question, but our links to dignity is that certain people are defined dignified, others are not, which is how you like filtrate who's not able.
One in our Senate, it'll be both,
Yeah.
be all, and then framework. Lamina never has it. Use this.
Yeah.
Very good.
No, one second.
That's not good.
Okay, I'm good.
Alright,
Okay.
good, good. Okay.
They said the alt doesn't solve the question of what to do is always tethered to an arc of redemption, but also assumes that there's something to be done. The true answer is that it's impossible to know what to do in a politically pragmatic sense because anti-blackness is so totalizing and ubiquitous that it colonizes the sphere of imagination. All one can do is attempt to formulate a grammar of suffering for blackness. The alternative is a question of rejecting investments within an anti-black paradigm, i.e. the process of making linked arguments is a way that one rejects every move the one EC makes towards reduction and towards anti-blackness. The better way of explaining it is to do is say end of the world. They'll inevitably ask what that looks like, but the above explains why we don't know, but all we know is that the one EC is not it. Spotlighting and rejecting the one EC's investment in anti-blackness is good.
Framework.
Counterinterpretation of the way sees an object and studying the world in should be to disprove the scholarship produced by the object, specifically intrinsic to plan, advantages and solvency. Now, first was fairness. I didn't catch a warrant in the treatise, but I'll answer it anyway. One, our impact outweighs it teaches. Students interpret the world in a way that is ethical. Fairness is an internal link. Its only an impact to debate is what we learn from it. There's zero impact to fairness of it is within a competition that's used to train students into anti-blackness. Second, it's inevitable. Speed, resource differences, funding, coaching, etc. Thumb game implosion. Third is the pathology decide. Moving the one EC is good, ultimately accountable for anti-black models of debate. Anything else teaches them that there's loopholes that the racist discourse weighing overall consequences that the plan enables. Microaggressions felt in here. Fourth, reasonability. Ask speaks first, last, and again. After to adaptive pessimism, which is a perennial generic. Fifth, risk of bullying justifies a procedural violation in the face of scholarship rooted in anti-blackness. Six, ask yourself, who's their fair model of debate fair for? War. And 11. Students underestimate structural forces who would carry racial disparities when often used to game with students from relatively diverse backgrounds, experience, and temporary amount of unfairness in the game creates opportunity to change the perspective the game is created to offer a chance of real students experience unfairness, competitive fairness, the world is fairly experience of a good player losing unfair game creates a cognitive distance that is our teaching moment. Next was clash. One, it's inevitable. Process counterpoints and hidden aspect means that debates inevitably shift away from plan focus under your interpretation. Two is that content matters. The link controls the terminal direction of clash. If we win, our model of debate is better than you should reject. Drop in the bucket or just this one round of logics and evaluate it over the course of the season. This one round may seem meaningless, but the legacy of debate proves it has an impact. If you ask people from 2004 activity would reach record levels of black participation, they would have said no because it seemed impossible at the time. But the reason why there is record levels of participation is because judges made transformative decisions. In rounds, they were told that their individual ballots don't matter. Third, plan focus is worse. You move the 1AC more by only weighing the 8-second advocacy text rather than the whole 8 minutes of the 1AC. Fourth, actual solves were quoting your evidence impact turning your advantages, which means anything to include in their app was their choice and fair game to link to. Debates over scholarship are better than stagnating extinction outweighs debates. Fifth, their words they allow utopian all that away structural impacts, which makes them OP and kills critical clash. Six, the suspended futurity they said. Their model causes suspended futurity for those being subjected to domestic war, causes racial battle fatigue that tears down body system. That's the 2NC Sullivan evidence. And B, only our evidence provides a strong causational link and index. The third variable problem to experimental design. Smith 12. After controlling for aging, level education and microaggressions, societal problems significantly affected MES and high proven. However, with the moderate home societal problems not significantly affected, only microaggressions significantly predicted MES ever. With controlling for demographic characteristics among the low group results indicated racial microaggressions, societal problems were no longer significant problems around for 24% in MES and high urban, 6.8% in the low group. Now the Mitchell card, one pattern solves nuanced engagement, cross-plot the stuff from above. Substantive debates over representations of 1AC where we can link to all 8 minutes is the best form of clash. Two, you can cross-plot the 2NC all explanation and 1NC cross. We criticize the very question of what to do in the face of anti-blackness. Third, cross-plot the answers to fiat, which will be below. Now subjectivity, they didn't make an argument in the 2NC about your ballot, which means your ballot matters. 8 is science, repetition compulsion is neurologically verified. I'm not going to read the Ingram 13 card, but you can cross-plot the repetition compulsion cards I'll read later. B is deplatforming, voting down Glenbrook North 10 times on your scholarship is racist, disincentivizes that mode of engagement. It means that minority debaters don't have to encounter racist scholarship, which solves our pathology offense. Third, It's not a yes/no question, framing it as such realists seems to get away with anti-black discourse in debate because they don't actually believe in it. That's an independent reason to vote negative in a tiebreaker that makes presumption flip neg. D, conscious confrontation with unconscious rhetoric and worldviews redirects future compulsions only. We're citing scientific consensus studies. Waddell et al. 22. Confronting reduced perpetrators, expressions of prejudice when white people are confronted with their demonstrated racial bias. They use self-regulatory techniques to inhibit their negative stereotype compensated behaviors in future interactions. Also, effects for bystanders who watch the established norms of egalitarianism. And now the fiat good arguments from the 1AC. I'll answer them here. The two standing cards. One, the pathology just says an impact turn. We can't, quote, postulate a better future if black and brown energy is being drained in the status quo. Two is the spectator politics just a reputation of simulated advocacy. No resigns debaters into action, turning politics into a spectator sport, which makes atrocities inevitable. Mitchell, 98. Fiat affords debaters the assumption that specified age will carry out the planned social separation, so the spectator mentality of mural simulation carries it out with few future responsibilities, ethic of detachment, introduce a politically regressive dynamic. Third, the countership solves political imagination better than the K. Still discusses carbon dividends, but a racial analysis is specifically key. Now the Woodward card. One, the countership solves better. You should defend the reps of climate change, so there's no risk of denialism often since we're debating representations. Two is that repetition compulsion. They create a spectacle of change that makes resistance impossible and an addiction based on the pleasure of investing in the world, feeding it, take more junk. The more you do, the less you drive or imagine.
7:42. Starting now.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be like in 2C order, so whatever. 2C one. So paper. That's a lot of off pieces out there.
Interesting number of pieces for a while. Yeah.
I'm good. Oh no, they're good. Good. Awesome. Draft content, they cannot win the debate because we proved that this is an important thing that we should consider for how it affects black people, since black people are disproportionately affected by climate change. You should explain this in your risk calculus because it's about how warm will impact future generations. The warming should outweigh magnitude because there's an infinite potential for devastation. Okay. Tuesday one is framework that needs a unique link and independent alternative because otherwise they decent the debate from things that we didn't know we should be prepared for. First is class, energy testing over the course of the year means that one weekend. My timer just stopped starting again.
balance up at the top and then ballot stuff at the top, then like length argument, the ontology debate, the framework debate. Too much. Okay. Everyone good?
Glenbrook North has lost this debate when they dropped the fiat case open evidence. This is the easiest, quickest, fastest way to get to Tinder RFD you can get. They also have extended 0 reasons why fiat is good, which means all I have to do is win forever, get a 1% risk of a link for a free negative ballot. You can extend this open evidence at the top. This card sets warrant experimental procedures for the focus on state-based politics, terrorists on the body system that intensifies psychological bonds and literally results in generalized anxiety, heart attacks, battle fatigue, depletes psychological resources, which trades off with micro-political strategies here and now. This should come before every impact in this debate because the close-in proximity will the level of what your ballot can affect next is because the defense should frame this is the fact that fiat does not teach us how to organize, who to organize with, etc. They have no empirical fiat proof that fiat does teach us something, which means making black folk believe that it does locks a hindrance onto making non-black people believe that it does results in complacency that trades off with actual change out there. The linkage to twofold. First, their arguments that debate simply game without effective subjectivity to have debate concern for the content. Solely the content is a bad modern debate because it gives debaters blank checks to commit anti-black violence and say whatever they want because they quote-unquote don't actually believe in it. It literally causes heart attacks or exhaustion. Within the activity too, they're used to fiat. They force black folks to engage in USAC action that never brings about wholesale change, which results in literal bottom fatigue because they actually spend their wheels to the solution. The impact is literal health defects, heart attack, depression, cardiovascular function, which is all above the. Now, the next argument was the sort of ontology arguments. I don't need to win any of these ontology arguments, but I'll still go through them in order to bolster the solvent evidence. Now, 7.1 was anti-blackness mutates. This is our argument. Contingent reforms are actually reforms, but just mutate the way in which anti-blackness operates and shifts anti-blackness to more insidious, mundane forms. Our argument is that the signifiers that have been attached to the black body do not change, even if there's structural adjustments to the condition of slavery. It's still the same sort of relationship between the human and non-human subject files. It just gets redirected at 7.2, even if ontology is descriptive. That just proves that you should refuse anti-black modes in politics. They dropped all of our wars like the 3 pillars of the liberal economy. Don't make me reinvent the wheel here. They've also dropped the argument that even if it is a social construct, it does not matter because 500 years of slavery should have cemented it so far that we cannot solve for it because it's 500 years now. The purpose evidence, I'm pretty sure the card was dropped. It says overcome is bad. Impact turns any sort of internal turns any sort of offense to get from the case, even if debates over the active skills to combat climate denialism, distancing, and constant repetition of apocalyptic scenarios could be a risk of spectatorship. That means we never want to act on those skills when in our mutual evidence that turns case in every fiat good argument because climate change is guaranteed to get worse because everyone becomes desensitized and gets used to just watching effects and speculating about them with zero action taken. Now, the answers to the Burge evidence and all this neurophysiological stuff is wrong. They do not actually have a warrant for this. All their 2EC cards were not about any sort of scientific or statistical study. They were just about how abstract theorizations about how the world can be good, but never about what the sort of parameters in scientific studies actually prove that. Only we have for the Burge evidence, which gives metrics for the liberal economy and why it is true. Now, the next argument was that progress isn't completed and possible. They've not given a single example in the one year for what examples of progress are possible, but all the examples that they can give are turned above by all the arguments that the condition of slavery just that gets mutated, which is our argument that they've extended now. They said it disavows black radical organizing. That is wrong because the whole argument here is that those radical forms of organizing that do engage in the state inevitably get co-opted and crushed down, which results in full hope. That's a solvent evidence which sort of answers this argument. Now the next argument they made was, I'll go down to framework here. Framing an issue for framework. The one year is extended. 0 piece of the 2EC offense only answers the one year. All left to do is win some defensive fairness class for you to pull the trigger on the suspended futurity doesn't solve an evidence. 1C is not said they get away, but the benefits of 1C scholarship NEG should disprove the scholarship produced state. And they said that the object studies infinitely regressive. No, we don't get links to things like author qualification, hypothetical, or a core epistemological tenets of the 1EC. And the permutation does not make any sense. They did not technically extend it here, but you cannot permute models. Now look, the one year is fine extending impacts, but an awful way of drawing the angel link to how they actually get there because they assume that we can link to literally any word or a hypothetical or author within the 1EC, which is just not true, not fairness. They've dropped several words on both fairness and clash, nothing but weighing the application of fairness. All their interlinks are to clash. If you need to fight win a risk of clash, that's also the fairness offense. But they've conceded that unfairness and now both funding coaching can't let it through. There's no normal impact of fairness. That was 7.2. And then the one also went drop. Now that clash after clash, and clash should not content neutral, maximizing clash is straight turn, and should not come at the expense of what type of clash it is. Either way, they drop that they would want to see more by only allowing us to link to 8 seconds in the 1EC rather than the whole 8 minutes by believing us so only the plain text, which is words water debate for clash. Now the subjectivity debate is the last thing I have to win. One, risk for offense outweighs because it straight turns their clash, even if they have hella defense on subjectivity, because it's not a yes or no question, but rather the probability that it does. They don't have any extra offensive change. You should be ready to pull the trigger on it. They will also consider the Louisville example, which specifically says that judges were coerced to think that their ballots do not make a difference, which is disproven by 20 years of critical debate actually changes the community. Now the extinction outweighs is irrelevant if we win framework, which moots all the case impacts, and we have an answer in terms of all the climate change impacts.
The commons advantage, subject K. I'll be doing the ontology fiat debate first and then you must vote for permission to endorse a carbon dividend that prevents the biological death of all black people as well as everyone else on Earth. They dropped the Coles and Susan evidence from the 1AR, but it answers all of their in here outer extinction offense, and is an independent inevitable, but rather mutation happens because racism is the insulated content that are different from each instance. That's the Jim Crow, slavery, and the prison system may all have been instances of racism and anti-blackness, but they were all different and perpetuated in different ways. And there's a prescriptiveness of ontologies and tells what to do. You should err at on the empiricism question because it's not a yes-no ideal. It means that you should prefer our evidence. The liberal thesis is misapplied. They brought this as an independent voter because the hoax card specifically said that it can't explain Japanese racism against the native Okinawa or institutional anti-Muslim sentiment in India, which is double turns all of their anti-black assaults or their solvency of the cruel optimism impact, which means that you should prioritize on the progress possible stuff, extend the Finley evidence. It was dropped from the 1AR. Advertisements can diagnose but not treat the black life, the possibility of black life within the state that is inherent in the Afro-pessimist framework, speaks to the possibility of progress within the state, which is crucial. They can't internally that check back against all their cruel optimism often on framework proper. They need unique links and a competitive alternative because any other model makes it impossible to address gratuitous violence. They cannot solve the harm they've isolated. It is true that anti-blackness is ontological. They cannot cause people to be passive in that base of ontology, nor can they result in a world where debaters walk away feeling like they approach the world with a new understanding of ontology. Class is the most important impact in this debate. It's an external impact because it's the ability to not just evaluate responses to anti-blackness, but also to become well-informed critics of every problematic theory that is the one in our agree that we should consider models of debate in which the framework is applied over the course of the year. That makes class lectures all their office because instead of rejecting the applicant in totality, because one aspect is anti-black, we pick these and pieces to each proposal we evaluate through the year. We win classes again, then we link the fiat. Okay, the reason they think that fiat is bad is because it doesn't teach us how to lead to solutions. They drop the link to subjectivity formation. Only class solves it because it teaches over the course of the year which aspects of certain proposals are bad, which ones are good, and which ones are simply untenable. Treating that as an object of study is infinitely regressive because anything you consider a type of study, even if they don't get links to line evidence or individual work, there's an individual number of fields that the study could be relevant in any context of any given innovation. Refusing to allow that to win impact based on the fiat implication of the claim means that application starts over in the 2AC, which is untenable. On the suspended future, it is said no coherent explanation in the 2 army does not end about offense. They've also dropped the place on churches because it teaches debaters that the reason they lost was because they had bad scholars. The whole point of the class debate is that whatever the content, it teaches to be well-informed skeptics who can tell when something's racist or problematic. They haven't extended any offense or solvency. They haven't grappled with any of the standing warrants, which means there should be no offense on this fiat case.
Good debate.
Debate.
We'll send you this after.